Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another week's conversation. And this week, I'm talking to Kristen Carrasco. Kristen runs the Etsy shop Kikiverde Design Studio. And Kristen, thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
You are so welcome. So before we start, can we learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. I live in Maryland with my husband, Michael, and our rescued Australian cattle dog, Ranger. And I'm a graphic designer, blogger, and Etsy shop owner. Oh,
nice. Do you, your graphic design, was that part of the inspiration behind opening your Etsy shop?
Actually, it was not originally. The thing that led me to open my Etsy shop was actually jewelry. Back in, I guess it was 2011 or 2012. I can't remember for sure. My friends had bought a Groupon for my birthday to the local bead studio, and we actually went there. We took this bead class, and I really fell in love with making jewelry, and more specifically making earrings. And I started making all kinds of different earrings, and I had a conversation with my husband, and he said, look, you're going to have to start doing something with these because you have so many. You can't wear them all, and you can't give them all away. So you're going to have to do something. And I had thought about opening an Etsy shop before, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to sell, and I wasn't quite sure if I could make money doing it. And that just kind of seems to be the right fit.
So when you first opened, jewelry was your first thing, because right now you sell different things. Actually, tell us what you sell in your Etsy shop right now.
So it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. I like to call it a gift shop. I have jewelry and accessories. I have inspirational art prints, and I also have handcrafted holiday ornaments.
Okay. And before you opened your shop, you had a side hustle. So having an Etsy shop on the side was not something you were completely unfamiliar with, right?
Right. So when I first started working, I did not work in my field, my chosen field, I should say. I went to school for graphic design, and when I graduated, the economy was not so great, and I ended up working in tech support, of all things.
Oh, wow.
And I did graphic design on the side.
Oh, of tech support.
Yes. So yeah, I did tech support during the day, and then, my side hustle was the graphic design.
Oh, okay.
Back then I was actually doing web design, which I don't do anymore, but it was a lot of web design.
Okay. So now you're on Etsy, you're selling on Etsy. How would you describe yourself? Do you consider yourself an artist, a maker, a crafter, or something else?
I kind of consider myself a little bit of everything. My business card, it says, underneath my name, it says creator of crafty things. Because I couldn't list everything I actually do, but probably I most identify with designer and crafter. Okay.
So when you opened your Etsy shop in 2011, after you did the Groupon beading class, were you already familiar with Etsy prior to that? Or once you got into beading, you started looking at outlets?
So I had actually heard of Etsy quite a while before that. I think it was in 2008. I don't know if anybody else remembers the Martha Stewart show, but that was my favorite thing to watch. And she had on a lot of Etsy sellers. And I remember she did a craft with a woman. I believe her shop was the Black Apple or something like that. And that's when I learned about Etsy. But I didn't really see myself as selling on Etsy. I did a lot of crafts and creative things, but I didn't really see a way to to make money from it. So I opened my shop in 2011, but I actually didn't start selling until 2012. It took me quite a while to kind of figure out what I was going to do with it.
Okay. So when you opened it, what was your original intention? Was it just to test out the waters, or did you have a purpose for turning it into a full-fledged business someday?
So I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted. I kind of figured I would just give it a try and see what happened. And when I first opened the shop, I wanted to see what would go into it, if it was something that I would even be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened the shop, and then I saw there's all these things to fill out, shop policies and things like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to figure all of this out. But, it allowed me to see what exactly I was getting myself into, and then take the time to, write out those things and be intentional about figuring out how I was going to go about everything.
Okay. So up front, did you come up with your policies and fill out all those things that Etsy walks you through, or did you first start selling and then as you went along you took care of that later?
Oh, I wrote and rewrote my policies. I think probably a lot of people are familiar with doing that.
Yes.
I did a lot of research. I wrote my policies, and then I did research, and I thought, okay, well, this shop has it written this way, and, maybe that's a good idea. So I put a lot of time and thought into how my shop was going to run before I actually started in the day-to-day.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is because I don't think I've ever actually discussed shop policies with anyone on the podcast. And it's an important part of running your Etsy shop to have those policies going in. And I don't know if you remember, because it was a while ago, but do you remember, and this is more so for people who are just starting out or thinking of starting on Etsy or haven't yet addressed their shop policies. What were some of the things that you wanted to make sure were addressed in your shop policy?
So I wanted to make sure that if someone did not like what they received, that there was a way to return it. I don't want unhappy customers. If someone orders something and then it's not what they expected, or not, it's just not what they want, or it doesn't work for them, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they've been stuck with something.
Right.
So I thought it was a good practice to be kind and, let people, not that I want to be taken advantage of, but I want people to feel confident that if they truly don't like something when they get it, that they'll be able to return it. That was one of the things that I looked at, and I can't remember what some of the other ones were. Oh, with the nature of handmade jewelry, sometimes, people don't understand that things aren't perfect. It is something that you pull out of the earth. It is a rock, essentially. And so, sometimes colors aren't exactly the same, or, things like that. So I wanted people to be aware that, these are not manufactured items most of the time. And so they are handmade and they're imperfect. And that's part of the beauty of handmade, is that no two things are quite alike.
Okay. Oh, nice. And then what about selling internationally? Did you address that up front?
I did. I don't currently do international shipping. I would like to, but it just wasn't something that I felt like I was able to do at the moment. I felt like there was so much research into, different costs and, the differences in shipping from one country to another country.
Yeah.
I just felt like that was a little too much for me to handle. I'm kind of a perfectionist by nature. And so if I didn't choose to ignore some things like that, my shop probably still wouldn't have opened yet.
Oh, right.
So, that was just something that I put on the back burner. I believe it's in my policies that I will do international shipping by request.
Okay.
For custom order. And it's actually, I do plan to offer international shipping in 2016, now that we have that great shipping tool that they've just released.
I know. I saw the email.
I think it'll make it a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay, good. And that's good because the international market is huge.
It is.
And I know even Etsy encourages sellers to sell internationally, not just US sellers, but around the world to ship globally, just because you open up your markets. So I'm glad you're going that way in 2016.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the reasons why when I introduced my print line into my shop, I made sure that I had them also available as a digital download, because I knew that that was a way to not offer international shipping, but to have something available for international customers.
Oh, right. Okay. So all your art prints are both downloadable and they come in a physical version that you can actually send to a buyer?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. Now, do you remember when you got your first sale on Etsy?
I do. I had actually started a Facebook page, and I had been posting photos of what I was working on and kind of trying to hype up my shop a little bit before it opened, because I had chosen opening date. And I wanted to make sure that in the meantime I put all my listings in draft form and they were all ready to go. And I had been posting teaser photos. And a friend of mine, she had messaged me on Facebook saying that she was interested in these two different pairs of earrings that I had posted. And at that point, I had not even decided on prices yet. I was so unprepared. And I said, let me get back to you. And I went and I listened to the Art of Pricing workshop and, went through all of those pricing worksheets and figured out some prices and got back to her. And when I opened my shop, my first sale was actually a custom listing for that friend.
Oh, nice.
Which was, yes, it was very nice.
That's nice. So 2 questions. First of all, the Art of Pricing workshop, for people who don't know what that is, can you tell us?
Sure. Etsy has, I believe it's called, is it Etsy Labs? I think.
Yeah, the online labs.
Yes. And this one was an in-person workshop that they did at the Etsy studios in New York. But they recorded it and they made it available online for all of us people that, can't make it to New York. Mm-hmm. So it's quite long. I want to say it's maybe an hour and a half, or 2 hours, but it is a great listen. There's 2 different ladies on there, and I am blanking on their names. I think Megan Auman was one of them. And there was another woman there too. And they went into great detail about respecting your time and respecting yourself as a business owner, and how to set pricing to make sure that you're not only making your money back for the product that you're selling, and you're not only paying yourself, but that you're also planning for your future business. So you're adding in your cost of your materials, the cost of your labor, but also your overhead and profit, because profit is what grows your business.
Right. Oh, I love that. I haven't seen that one, but I'm a huge fan of the Etsy online labs. There's so much good information there. The videos are so helpful. So I will have a link to the Etsy online labs. I don't think I can link directly to the video, but for anyone who is interested in the Etsy online labs, go to convome.com. I'll have a direct link that will take you there, and they're just a bunch of videos you can watch. Some of them they record live. I know they'll send an email, and if you're available while they're doing the live workshop, you can actually interact with the the course instructors, what they call them, education specialists, I think,
Yeah.
and send them questions and they'll answer your questions live on air. And then if you can't, you can just watch the recording. And the nice thing is the recording also has the questions that people asked. So sometimes you have a question that someone else asks and you get to hear the answer.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's free education. So,
Yeah.
and it's from the people who want you to succeed, because your success pays their paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's one way to look at it. Yeah. Now, okay. So on Facebook, do you use one of those apps that lets you integrate your your Etsy shop into your Facebook page, or are you running just off of your own personal Facebook page?
So I have a fan page
Okay.
for my shop, and I also have a blog. So it's kind of a little bit for both, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's how I do it. And I do have, I can't remember for sure which app it is, but I do have one of the Etsy shop apps loaded so that it creates an Etsy shop tab. I don't know if anyone pays attention to it or has seen it, but I do have it there.
Okay, I was going to ask about that, whether or not you could track sales, actual sales from that, because I know I have one, and I feel bad now. I'm blanking out on the one I installed because I wanted to see if I could track if it was actually sending sales my way, but I've never seen it in my stats.
I've never noticed either. If it does, it's not something that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Actually, that's good information to have, though, if it would.
Yeah, it would be good to know. I know there was, that's just going off on a whole other tangent because that's a whole other conversation. So I'll skip that. Now, do you remember how long it was between your first sale and then the next sale that you got?
So that's actually kind of funny because it was another friend, and it was the next day, but it was a surprise to me. It wasn't something that I really was expecting. Back at that time, I was actually working very part-time for a coupon board, which no longer exists.
Oh, what was it called?
It was called Organic Grocery Deals.
Huh.
And it was a site that helped people save money on organic and natural foods. So it was like a message board, and you could print coupons through there. It was actually really cool. So it's a shame that it's gone, but it was another moderator from that site. She had seen what I was doing, and I had offered them a coupon code, for my coworkers, and she had ordered a pair of earrings for herself and a pair for her sister. I believe it was her sister's birthday or something. So that was my second sale. And then the third sale that I had came in also that same day. And that was from a friend of a friend. So my friends were great. When I opened my Etsy shop, I mean, they were just great about helping me promote, and I made sure that they knew what I was working on.
Yeah.
So my first 3 sales came pretty quickly, and that gave me a boost of confidence, which was really good because it was quite a while between those first few sales and then my next sale, which I believe, I want to say it was a few months.
Oh, wow.
A few long months.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But you stuck with it.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm starting to ask that more just so that new sellers get a realistic picture of, what it's like when you first open up your shop. A lot of people get support from friends and family, especially because most often they're the ones who tell you, okay, stop giving me stuff.
Yeah.
Just go and sell your stuff. And then they'll come back and support you. But, the sales don't always just come right away. So it's nice to hear how each person got their first sale.
Sure. And I think it's important too, because when I opened my shop, I was under the impression that I was just going to open the doors and people were going to come, and it was
Why not?
I didn't realize that you actually had to work to promote your shop.
Yeah.
It's not magic.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Very good. And we'll get to that because that's a huge part of selling on Etsy. It's not magic. And yes, lots of people know about Etsy, but they don't know about you. So how do you get them to you? So we'll talk about that. Do you have a job outside of Etsy or do you do Etsy full time?
So I do still do my graphic design side hustle, which I gave up for many years because of health problems.
Okay.
But I started that back up around the same time that I started my Etsy shop. So between Etsy and the graphic design work and my blog, I'm kind of spread a little bit thin, but they all kind of go hand in hand, and I use them to actually promote each other. So it works in my favor.
Do you offer your graphic design services through Etsy? Because I know some sellers do that.
You know what? I haven't yet. I'm thinking about doing that.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how I'm going to approach that in the future. I tend to do a handful of projects a year. I have a really small boutique firm. You couldn't even call it a firm. A small business, a very small business. And it's mostly by word of mouth recommendations for people that I've done work before or people who have seen something that I have done on Etsy.
Okay.
So, I haven't really sought out that kind of work. It's just kind of found me.
Okay. So what does your typical day look like then?
Oh gosh, no day is typical.
Okay.
I think that's typical for most Etsy sellers.
Yeah.
I do try to first thing in the morning, I do have a little bit of a routine, and I try to check in, with my email and social media and my Etsy shop. And if I do have an order, I will try to go ahead and get that packaged right away, because I know when I buy something, I get really excited. I want to get it right away.
Yeah.
So I try to do my absolute best and ship out orders either the same day I receive them or the next day. I know for larger shops, that's probably not possible. Mm-hmm. But I do try to do that. All my shipping is priority mail at this point. So I feel like,
really?
Yes, I do priority flat rate. So I feel like if I'm asking somebody to pay that much for shipping, then I should, hold up my end of the bargain and get it to them as soon as possible.
Okay. Can I ask you about that?
Sure.
So you sell stuff that's not really too heavy, jewelry and art prints. Mm-hmm. You could easily send them first class. Why did you decide to go priority? Just so people get it faster, or so you can just charge one flat rate for shipping? Or do you even charge for shipping? Do you do the free shipping thing?
I've gone back and forth between including shipping in the cost of what you're buying, and I've gone back to, which is what I currently now I'm doing, paying for shipping.
Okay.
So there's a couple different reasons why I did it that way. The first reason was that a lot of my items, based on the weight, I didn't feel as if I had the time or the ability to really figure out exactly what each thing was going to cost. And I really wanted to encourage people to buy more than one thing. And I felt like if I charged flat rate shipping, then people may be more inclined to put on a second pair of earrings or an ornament or, something else in their order instead of just buying that one thing, because they were going to be investing in the shipping.
Right.
And the other reason I did it was for my own ease. I mentioned earlier that I have some health issues, and for me, going back and forth to the post office on a regular basis just isn't really feasible. Mm. And with the priority shipping, they will deliver the supplies for free to your door.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
And it's great. And you have them in your closet, and when you need more, you just let them know and they'll bring more, and they'll come and pick them up for you. Yeah. And for me, that just makes life so much easier. And I'm sure that I probably miss out on some sales. Now that we have the shipping tool, available. I'm actually going to be looking at, when I do the international shipping, I'm going to be looking at what it would look like for me if I would be able to switch and offer other shipping services, and if that would be something that's feasible for me or not. I think probably with this new tool, I think it is possible, but when I opened my shop, it was just a little bit
cumbersome.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I know I haven't played with, not on Etsy though. I haven't played with free shipping, and I know for some sellers it works really well because they'll build the price into the shipping into the price of the product.
Yes.
But then for the buyer, it's like you're paying one flat fee, and you don't pay anything. You don't pay any additional fees if you add on to that. And so I know it works in some cases. And I think just like you did it, everyone needs to try what works for them, and see what works out best. So, okay. I was curious about that.
Sure.
So, do you ship every day? Well, since the post office, and that's the other thing about the priority mail, if it's priority, they will pick it up for you.
They will.
Yeah. And you can have other things in there, but if it's only first class, you need to have at least one package that's going via priority mail for them to pick it up. That's the caveat for anyone who wants to do that.
Yes, and it's very convenient, but there is that extra cost. So
yeah,
it's just kind of whatever works for you. What works for me, I'm sure would not work for somebody else. And I may have missed out on sales because people look at the shipping and think, my goodness, I can get everything delivered to me for free on Amazon, but she wants, this much money for shipping. But it's the way I've chosen to do it, and it works.
Yeah.
And if I started getting feedback from my customers that, that they weren't buying because the shipping was too high, then I would definitely rethink it. But I really haven't heard anybody complaining or, questioning why it's like that. So
yeah. And I think there's also a different mentality when you're shopping handmade as opposed to manufactured products. But since you brought up Amazon, can I ask, did you apply for the handmade by, I've forgotten what Amazon calls it. Amazon has their name for their new handmade
I can't remember
marketplace.
What it's called.
What do you know about it though?
I know about it. I did not apply.
Okay.
Not yet anyway. I'm considering it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. It's like, oh yeah, Amazon is doing something.
Yeah, I'm considering that. And I also recently got an email about Etsy wholesale, and I'm considering that too. But I wanted to think about it before I put in the application, because there's a $100 application fee if you're accepted, that they just automatically charge you. And I thought, that's not really something I want to just do on a whim if I'm not going to necessarily use it. So I did want to get more information about that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I want to talk to someone about that one day on the podcast, because I think lots of people have questions about Etsy wholesale.
That would be great.
Okay. All right. So Kristen, what goes now, because you sell both jewelry and art prints, do you split your days between, how you're getting your creative inspiration? So some days you're making jewelry and some days you're working on art prints, and what inspires you to do both?
So the way that I typically set up my day is I try to batch my tasks. So it's not a great idea for me to get my work table set up with all my jewelry making supplies and then put them away and then switch to something else and then, switch back. So I tend to actually dedicate larger areas of time. I've just been recently working on getting some new jewelry in the shop. So I've been working on that for a few weeks, and I haven't done new art prints in quite a while. Now, when I finish with that, I will probably do some more art prints, or maybe even Christmas ornaments, because we're getting to that time. So
start
people
preparing.
are starting to look. I've gotten some favorites for my ornaments, and I thought, no, not yet. I'm not ready. So I do that, and I kind of go in cycles. So it kind of follows what people are typically buying. I just want to make sure that I'm working in a way that makes sense. So the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, I really start working on holiday stuff so that by the time the holidays roll around, I'm ready. Okay. And then after the holidays go by, I think most Etsy shop owners will agree that it gets kind of dead for a while on there. So yes. I do use that time in the beginning of the year to really plan and make things. That's when I did the majority of my art prints last year and then released them in the spring.
Okay.
So it kind of depends, but I do sort of follow a schedule.
Okay. Do you set any inventory goals for the holiday? Just like, do you plan to have a certain amount of inventory or jewelry available by the holiday season so that you don't run out, or so that you have just enough that will all sell?
I make as much as my fingers will allow. Okay. So with my ornaments, I do tend to do in-person sales for the holidays, which I don't typically do the rest of the year. I don't really do craft shows except for around the holidays. That I do generally have an open house.
In your house?
Yes, I do. I invite all my friends and all their friends, and I set up my living room and dining room and my studio like a shop, and I invite people in. And I don't open it up to the general public, so I'm not posting signs on the street or anything, but but it is a good way to get people in and get people looking, and I think people appreciate it. And some years I've done better than others with that.
Yeah.
But so I do try to make as much inventory as I can for those in-person sales, because you never really know what people are going to buy. The very first craft show I did was actually, I shouldn't say this, but it was kind of a horrible experience.
You can say it.
It was, the girl that set it up had the very, very best of intentions, and she did absolutely everything right, but people just didn't show up. There were no customers, and people were, it was just so sad. And you could just feel the level of desperation in the room. When someone would walk in the door and they'd be the only one shopping and everybody would be watching them.
That's a lot of pressure on the buyer.
I know. And I think people would just feel uncomfortable and then they would leave.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. But what happened was one of my friends came, and the pine cone ornaments that I sell, she was picking them off of the tree, because I have an artificial Christmas tree with my booth set up, and I hang the ornaments on the tree to display. And she had, if you think of a woman, how you would swaddle a baby, she had her arms filled with all of these ornaments that she's pulling off the tree. And I was thinking, oh, she's just picking out her favorites, and then she'll go through and then, figure out which one she wants. Well, she ended up coming over and she bought 10 ornaments that day. So I was not expecting that. I never would have anticipated selling 10 ornaments to one person, but they're so unique that I think people, when they see them, they are the perfect gift for that person that you don't know what to get. Your boss, your babysitter, your great aunt, all those people that you have to give something to them. And, it's just a good gift for those types of things. So if I had only made what I thought I would sell, I probably would have run out during that craft show season.
Okay, that makes perfect sense then.
Yeah.
Do you use the Etsy card reader when you're doing your in-person sales, or cash only?
I use the Etsy card reader and I love it.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, it's great because people that are walking by, I don't know if you have one or not, but it comes in this really beautiful wooden container that actually acts as a stand. and it holds the card reader inside. So when you take the card reader out, there's this, I want to say maybe 4 inches by 4 inches square card with the Etsy logo on it that you can put inside of the wooden box and then use it kind of like the way a store would show you that they take Visa or MasterCard or whatever.
Yeah.
So people walking by, they see that bright orange thing and they say, oh, you're on Etsy.
Oh, nice.
And when maybe they don't want to buy then, but they'll go ahead and take a card because then they know that they can come back and go online and look at your shop.
So the cards have your shop on them?
My business cards, I mean.
Oh, okay. Your business cards. Oh, okay.
I put my business cards right next to that little sign.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't have the reader, and I actually have never seen anyone using the reader out and about, but I've talked to people on the podcast who do use the reader. Everyone loves it. I mean, everyone I've asked about it anyway.
Yeah, it's great. And I also do at my in-person sales, sometimes I'm selling things that I have in my inventory that have not necessarily made it into my shop yet. So the app will actually allow you to take a photo during the sale process. So you just ring it up as a custom order. It will allow you to snap a quick photo, and then it actually sends that with the receipt. So it helps you keep really good records about what you're actually selling if it's not directly from your shop.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Nice. And do you use a particular type of accounting system to keep track of all your sales, both on and off of Etsy?
I do. I use, it used to be called Outright.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's GoDaddy
now.
Yeah. So I use that. And I will say that I'm a thrifty person. I don't like paying for things. Yeah. And it was, when it was Outright, it was free. Now I believe it's
$9.99 or
yeah,
something.
I was going to say $10 a month or something.
Yeah.
And I gladly hand over that money every month to them because honestly, it is so worth it. With it having the automation from PayPal, from Etsy, there's very little that I actually have to do when it comes to my accounting, which is great because first of all, I hate accounting. And second of all, I'm terrible at accounting. So anything that they can do for me, I will gladly pay for.
Nice. Okay. Oh, good to know. All right. Yeah. I was discussing, I say discussing in quotes. This was on Instagram. So you know what those Instagram discussions are. It's like in the comments section.
Yeah.
And we were talking about bookkeeping and accounting solutions, and someone had asked what were some. So I was listing some and I could not remember what the outright one was called. And somebody else eventually came on and said, oh, don't forget Outright, GoDaddy bookkeeping. I was like, yes, that's the one I forgot. Okay, so let's talk about how you promote your Etsy shop. So what do you do that works best for you right now? What's getting the most customers to your shop, and what of those things do you think is actually getting you the most paying or buying customers that convert?
So I have a few different things that I do. I think that social media is key. I think that anytime you can share something on social media, you're not just sharing with your audience, you're sharing with your audience's audience. If they comment, if they share, if they like, a lot of times I will see that someone has liked something on Facebook or, somewhere else, and it's because one of my fans or friends liked it. And then Facebook then showed them, well, this person liked such and such, or these people are talking about this thing on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I like that because it's people helping me without me having to do extra work. And I think anytime something comes from an authentic connection with someone else, such as if somebody shares a photo that you've shared and said, these are beautiful and I really like them, that's worth so much more to me than me saying, hey, I buy these. Yes. I need money. Yes. People don't tend to respond really great to those types of posts. But I do share things like that. I have a tool called, I hope I say this right, IFT. It's if this, then that.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of that. So
yes, I have.
Yeah, I have that set up so that they have what they call recipes. So the recipes are, if this action happens, then this action happens. And then you fill in the actions. So I have mine set up that if I list something on Etsy, so that's a listing or a renewal, then it will automatically share the title as well as the photo on Facebook, on Twitter, and most recently on Pinterest, because it didn't used to integrate with Pinterest, but it does now.
Okay.
So all of that is automated. I don't have to do anything. It just shows up. And that's really a great service. It's free. You just have to set up the original recipe, and it just does it for you, which is great. And then the other thing that I do a seasonal newsletter, which is sort of new, and I'm going to say I'm not great at that yet. I always think, well, what should I say?
I know. I struggle with the same thing too.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's hard.
Yeah, you don't want to bore people, but then you don't want to not say anything to where they're like, I thought you said you were going to say something.
Exactly. I feel like it's when people sign up for it and then they don't get anything in a while. I feel like it's when you see on the movies where it's like, girl meets guy at a bar and they exchange numbers and then they never call.
And then he never calls. Yeah.
And I feel like I'm that person that never calls. So, nobody likes that, but
yeah.
I'm trying my best. I changed it from a monthly newsletter to a seasonal newsletter, which I think suits me a little bit better. And when the holidays start kicking up here in a little bit, I think it'll be a little bit easier because there's going to be more to talk about. People are wanting to buy more. And then the last thing that I do to promote my shop is I actually do in-person networking events. So I used to be more active on Meetup, various groups, but I also found a women's owned networking group in my area. It's called On Purpose Networking for Women, and it's for heart-centered entrepreneurs. So it's not that icky kind of people are only out for themselves type of thing that you think of when you hear networking. I think I have a physical reaction to that word that kind of makes me cringe. But it's women who have businesses that they are called to do. So it's a lot of life coaches and nutritionists and people who do things like Avon or Arbonne.
Okay.
Those types of things. And there's meetings, various times a month throughout the area, and you get to talk about your business and what you do, which I think is really important, because I think that a lot of Etsy owners, including myself, we tend to be introverted.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to kind of share with other people. And when we do, it can kind of feel a little strange and unnatural. But I think that the more you do it, the more you get comfortable talking about yourself and your business and what you do, the more often you do it, the more natural it gets. And you can increase your comfort zone. So having those conversations with people and those connections with people, first of all, you're making friends in the process. You're making connections with other business owners who can help you out if you for instance, say you need a bookkeeping software and you don't know what to use. You can ask them what they use or who they use.
Right.
And then it's also creating customers, because you're making those connections. You support their businesses and they will support your businesses.
And I wanted to ask about that. Can you trace actual customers back to the connections that you made within the group?
I can.
Oh.
I mean, I there are people that I have never met that are in the networking group. There's also a Facebook group for that group that just meets online, because it's connecting people. A lot of people in this area end up moving away, just because of the nature of the area and the types of jobs that are here.
Okay.
A lot of people end up relocating for whatever reason, but there's a lot of people in that group that used to live here and don't anymore. So it's not actually just women business owners in Maryland. It's, all the way over to California and down to Florida. And, if you share something in that group that they're interested in,
they'll talk about it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So I've sold to people that I've never met from that group.
Oh, I see. Now, is it a paying group? So do you have to pay to belong?
So the actual in-person meetings, you do have to pay. Okay. It's like $20 or $25 a meeting. And then you can either join as a member, which has like a dues-based payment every year, or you can just, go to a meeting and not get the additional membership. But I believe the Facebook group is free.
Okay. How did you find this particular group?
The lady that runs it, she is great. She is like the epitome of what a great woman business owner is. Mm-hmm. I have just found her so inspiring. So what she does in addition to this is she actually publishes a small local magazine that is geared towards women. I don't know if other areas have things like this, but it's the type of publication that if you walk into your local library and then they have free magazines. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those types of magazines. So I had read the magazine for a couple of years, and then I met another girl. This is kind of a funny story. I was selling my jewelry and Christmas ornaments at a bar of all places, but they had this ladies' night where they invited vendors in. Okay. And so we met at this bar and we were just talking business while we were trying to sell to people. And she told me about the group. And I said, I've heard of that through that magazine, but I didn't really think it was for people like me. But I went to a meeting and, really enjoyed it.
Wow. So now how long have you been with the group?
So I think it's been about 2 years now.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit longer. And I have not made it to a meeting lately, which I'm kind of bummed about, but that's what's great about it is that you can step away for a while if you need to and then show up and
come back.
People still recognize you. People are, glad to see you when you're there.
Oh, so one thing I wanted to ask, I remember a while ago, I joined one of these types of groups. It wasn't a meetup because, with meetup groups, they just do things. You just join the group and then you show up when they're doing something. But this was more specifically a business networking group. And I don't remember the name of it. I don't think I don't know where they are now. But one of the things that they required was, so they had meetings, I think it was once a month, and everyone had to, when you show up for the meeting, you had to come with a resource to share, and you had to come with connections for other people. And I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot of pressure for me because I always felt like, okay, what if I don't have any resources to share with the group? Or what if I don't have any connections? 'Cause you had to come like with stuff to make sure you helped someone in the group. And if you didn't, like 2 or 3 times in a row, then you got kicked out or something like that. I don't remember. It was really radical.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was. It was very stressful for me because I was just starting out, I didn't really have many connections. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just be like say somebody had a service. I was like, okay, maybe I'll just use them and let me be the service, or what do you call it? the customer I bought for them. I'll make myself your customer. I don't know anyone else who wants to use your service. That's how bad it got, till eventually I was like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore. But this group is not like that you're describing, is it?
No. Okay. So the most intense part of this group is that at the beginning of every meeting, they do introductions. So you have to go around the room and stand up and introduce yourself, which I was not prepared for at all when I showed up for the first time. And when I was there and she said, okay, you know, your first time visitor, you get 2 minutes to tell us who you are and what you do. I felt so uncomfortable. I had all these eyes staring at me. I didn't know what to say. But if you think about it, when you meet anybody anywhere, they ask you, so what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, that's the first question people ask. So it's good to have an answer that makes sense, you know, you're confident in, because you know, you never know who your next customer is going to be.
Yeah.
Not that I'm out trying to, you know, hound people all the time to buy stuff, but you know, you really just never know.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. Now, so Kristen, you also have a blog, a website. It's kikiverde.com. I'm going to have a link to that as well in the blog post. What do you do on the website? What do you use it for primarily?
Oh gosh, it's kind of a hot mess. I say that because I am a Renaissance soul at the truest form. I am so interested in so many different things. And I really just needed a way to kind of keep them contained, I guess. So when I started my blog, it's kind of evolved over the years, but I actually post recipes. I post tutorials. I have some, oh gosh, what are they called? I can't even think of what they're called. Meal planners.
Oh,
like
okay.
downloadable things. For things like that. And it's just, it focuses on, I think my tagline is a journal of my handmade life.
Okay.
So, you know, I share gardening information and pictures, and, you know, I do share stuff about the blog or the shop on the blog. So it is also a form of promotion for me, but it is not something that I push.
Okay.
But it is a way for people to connect with me and for me to, you know, gently remind them that I do other things.
Okay. Do you see traffic coming to your Etsy shop from your website?
I do.
Okay.
So a lot of times, you know, I will post something. I will post an image from my shop on my blog, and then that post, I'll pin it to Pinterest. And people will be interested in, you know, this happens a lot actually with the Christmas ornaments. So they'll see the Christmas ornaments on Pinterest and then come to the blog and then see the posts that I have made about making these and then purchase one from the shop.
Okay. And the shop, your Etsy shop on the website, I see it leads them directly back to your shop. So if they click on something there, it takes them to Etsy to do the checkout.
Yeah.
What did you use to integrate that into? So for people who have a blog already and you want to put your shop, do you use a specific tool to integrate your Etsy shop into the website?
So what I did, and I know that there's easier ways. I used my former web design knowledge to link the photo. So when you click on the photo, it links back.
Oh, okay.
I am actually looking, it's on my list, my long-term to-do list, to install one of those plugins for WordPress.
Yeah.
It essentially mimes your shop.
Yes.
Because right now I just have a few key things. I think I maybe have 3 or 5 of something from each category just to give people a taste.
Okay.
But I'd really like to get the whole shop on there. I just don't know how to do it yet.
Okay. Yeah. Add it to the list.
Yes. The never-ending list.
Yeah. Kristen, what are some of the things you would say? Okay, let me not say some of the things. What are 1, maybe 2 things that you would advise a new Etsy seller to focus on to make sure that they are successful in selling on Etsy? Just like 2 things that you think are really important for them to zone in on, because there's so much to do, especially when you first start.
So I think the first thing I would tell people is get to know your customer. So any way you can do that is really, the information that you can receive is invaluable. So I think probably the best way to do that is try a few in-person sales. Try a craft show or 2. You can see what people pick up. You can see their reaction to the price. You can see if they're even interested in what you're doing. If you have people walking by, maybe that's not the right item for you. But that's what I would say. Get to know your customer. And there's some really good worksheets available on Etsy. I can't remember what the one is called, but if you search ideal customer worksheet or something like that on Etsy, they have a few that come up that you can print out and you can actually fill it in. So what kinds of magazines does your customer read? Because it helps with styling your photos. What is going to speak to that type of person? What are they interested in?
I didn't know about the worksheets. Good to know. Okay.
Yeah, I printed out a bunch of them because I realized when I started my shop that my actual customer is not who I thought they would be. I sell to a lot of men, which I never, ever expected. But
really?
Yes, because men buy the Christmas ornaments that they sell because they're easy. They see them and they think, oh, this is unique. I can get this for my wife. And then they're off the hook, or they can get it for their mother. And with the jewelry, the same thing. I mean, I have my tags utilized that says anniversary gift,
smart
birthday gift, things like that, so that men who are going on Etsy, they don't want to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what to buy.
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. So you lead them to you.
Yes.
Oh, smart. Okay.
And then the second piece of advice, I think, it's a little bit cerebral in the way that it's not actually advice, but if you're a new Etsy seller or you're even considering selling on Etsy, don't talk yourself out of it. It took me about a year from the time that I registered on Etsy as a seller to open my shop, but there were years before that where I thought about it, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't confident. I was afraid. I thought, oh gosh, my shop will never be good enough. It can't compete with those other shops. Look at how great their photography is. Look how many things they sell. And, it psyched me out and I got in my own way. So I think that the best advice I can give for a new shop owner is that there's no time like the present. Wow. And there will never be a perfect time to open your shop. And you're never going to get to a point where you feel 100% confident. Yes. So just start where you are and then just keep going. If there's a hurdle or a roadblock, figure it out. If you're uncomfortable with bookkeeping like I was, save your receipts and figure it out later. I mean, as long as you pay your taxes on time, no one's going to yell at you. Yeah. No one's going to come after you as long as you're giving your money when your money is due. But, I didn't know anything about accounting when I opened my shop, but I didn't want to let anything else keep me from doing that.
Okay. And there's so much information. You can learn things along the way. I know some people like to know everything before they jump in, but you'll
never know everything.
Exactly. As I was going to say, you're always going to be learning something. Yeah. What, the other thing I was going to, what you advise is to try doing some in-person selling. How do you go about picking the craft shows that you attend, and what advice can you give about picking a good one to start with? I
have picked some really dead shows. Okay. And I picked some really good shows too. I think that, it's hard. It's hard to pick a good one. Because there are some that I have done that some years I made so much money, and then the next year I went back and it was dead. I think that the best thing you can do is figure out what you're selling. So if you're selling hand-sewn baby items, quilts, things like that, you want to go where people with families are. So you want to go to school craft fairs, PTA craft fairs, things that are at the church. If you sell handmade soaps, you're going to want to be at a market where people are really interested in artisanal goods.
Oh, like a farmer's market type of
yes,
place. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
If you're selling jewelry, the same thing. You go to where moms are going to be, go to where women are going to be. The one that I did was a ladies' night at a bar. It was free. I didn't pay anything to go.
Yeah.
It was, I never knew what.
And don't judge based on the setting, because look what happened at the bar. So
yeah. And I didn't sell a lot at the bar, but I made a really good connection with somebody else. You no matter where you go, even if you don't have a good sale day, if you don't make a lot of money, if you talk to people, you're going to make those invaluable connections.
Yeah.
You're always going to get something out of it.
Yeah. And more often than not, a connection comes before the sale comes.
Yes.
So, Kristen, what are some of the tools that you're using right now that are your favorites that you would like to recommend? So it can be a tool for selling on Etsy, or a crafting tool, or even a book that you've read that you found very helpful. What would you say?
So I think you mentioned one earlier, the If This Then That.
Yes. Okay.
Is really great. I like to call it my virtual assistant, because I can't afford a virtual assistant, but that takes care of all my social media for me if I'm not available to do it. It's not that I've replaced my social media with that, but at the very least, it's there. Okay. I think another one that I would suggest, I took a boot camp with her recently. Laura C. George, .com. Yeah, she has a website that gives business advice for artists, and she tends to focus a little more on painters and printmakers and sculptors and people like that, but I think that it's all really valuable information.
Okay.
So she actually has a boot camp. I think it just finished, but I think that she has a free webinar that was like the introductory thing that she gives away for free to get people to sign up for this. It's called The Art of Getting Press. And it teaches you how to talk about what you do and how to approach people as far as featuring your work on blogs or in a magazine, which I think is, again, something that I would never feel comfortable doing unless I had, those tools or some more information.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful to me. And I think she has a great website and, provides really great information for artists.
Okay. And it's Laura C. George?
Yes.
Okay. I've never heard of her, but I'm going to look her up, and then I will have links to her website and the Art of Giving Press, or the webinar, whichever one. I'll have links to that so folks can go and look her up and see if you want to investigate more, and also to IFTTT. I recently discovered it too, and I love it. The recipe, you can make a recipe for almost anything.
Yes.
And I can't believe it's free. I'm just waiting for the ball to drop for them to say, okay, now it's going to be $5 a month or something like that. Yeah. But while it's free, it is like having a virtual assistant. So I'll have a link to that as well. You can check that out and see if that can help take some stuff off your plate. And let's see what else. Oh, also we talked about the GoDaddy bookkeeping. Yes. So I'll have a link to that as well. And then the Etsy online labs. Kristen, that's a lot of resources actually that you've surfaced. So thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the best way people can get in touch with you if they want to reach you?
I think I have a parade of links at my blog. So Kikiverde.com. There's a link to email me, and there's also links to all my other social media.
Okay.
Or you can find me on Etsy under Kikiverde, same name.
Okay. And I will have Kristen's parade of links, as she calls it, in the blog post. So you don't have to remember it. Just go there and I will direct you directly to where she is everywhere online. Kristen, thank you so, so much for being patient and for being my guest on the podcast. I really appreciated having you on, and thank you for sharing everything that you did.
Oh, thanks. It was great to be here.
You're welcome. And thank you for listening to this week's episode. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.